And welcome to the Village of Mount Pleasant Plan Commission meeting for January 17th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Bhatia?
Here.
Meyer?
Here.
Washburn?
Here.
Driver?
Here.
Van Beckham?
Here.
Both Riesler and Bosanowski are absent.
Next will be the approval of the meeting minutes from December 20th, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve December 2023 minutes as written.
Mr. Chairman, before we have a second, I think there is a typo error or something, unless I'm wrong, on the Green Bay Road and the zoning map. It says on voice vote, the motion carried, which the motion carried, but I think there was a trustee or so who voted no. So that should be recorded, right?
I would agree.
Yeah.
It did pass, but.
Yeah, it did
But
pass,
there are
but,
negative, yes.
yeah.
We'll note the vote and the dissenters in the meeting minutes.
Yeah, we discussed that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I would agree with that. I'll second based on that recommendation to add the dissenter.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next will be under new business, 2806 Green Hayes Avenue zoning map amendment, ZMA 2313.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Jacob Gunia applied to amend the zoning map from RL1 to RE. The existing home sits across two parcels of land, which the applicant wishes to merge. The subsequent lot would be greater than the maximum width for the RL1 district, but would comply with the RE district lot width regulations. Therefore, to merge the two lots, they need to amend the zoning map. The RE district is primarily intended to accommodate detached houses on very large lots and very limited keeping of horses or farm animals. The application follows the residential areas, including churches, multifamily, recommendation of the land use element of the multi-jurisdictional comp plan. Neither the Mount Pleasant Master Bicycle Plan nor the Parks and Open Space Plan recommend any improvements for the property. In terms of fiscal impact, we want to make special note that the zoning map amendment will not affect the current assessed value of either property. Merging the properties will limit the long-term assessed value of the cumulative property, though, because it will not allow the construction of a second detached house on the subject property. That said, the village permitted the existing home in a location that does not conform to either the current or the former zoning setbacks. So while the village staff does not believe there's a reason to deny this merge due to fixing a previous problem that the village essentially permitted, we typically discourage downzonings like this within platted subdivisions as they reduce both the cumulative number of housing units and the cumulative assessed value of the village when done often. So just wanted to call it out that this is kind of a special case where we're fixing something that's a little bit messed up. The home, as you can kind of see on the exhibit on the screen, but also if you go past it, is really like across the property boundary there. But I don't know how that happened in the first place. But regardless, we're going to fix it now for the homeowner. They can build this way they can build some outbuildings across the entire property because we don't permit an accessory structure on a home or property without a home. So this kind of solves that issue for them, but not something that we typically encourage in platted subdivisions like this. We have one recommendation that the village president shall sign the ordinance 01-2024 when the applicant provides recorded proof from the Racine County Register of Deeds that they merged the properties. With that, we move to recommend approval.
Any questions?
Yeah, in regards to the outbuilding that they plan on putting in at some point, in the RE district, they're going to have a lot more latitude than they would in a residential normal area.
Not necessarily.
No.
The actual buildable area is less in an RE district than it is in an RL1 district. It goes from 50% lot coverage down to 25% lot coverage, as well as the RE outbuilding has to match the front face, the street-facing facade, has to match the existing materials of the home. So if anything, the rules are getting more restrictive for an outbuilding, not less.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. But they do, to your point, get some increased allowances, though, for increased animals. So they could have like a couple goats or a horse on the property. It'll be just over an acre when merged together. So while the standards for architecture and building area will be more strict, they in turn get a little bit more allowance for those types of structures.
Just to add, accessory height goes from 20 to 24, but the side and rear setbacks for detached go from 3 to 10 feet. So the old 10 feet are 100 setback. So that's what that is.
Okay, thank you.
Those are other differences.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to state that I really was very pleased, even though this is a very simple situation in terms of the overall picture. I really was impressed with the way, even for doing this, they communicated with their neighbors and doing it through Facebook and their neighborhood page, as well as literally going, I believe they said door to door. And I wish that some of our major developers would take that kind of interest in their neighborhood, right?
I
Instead
have
of
the
sort of
same.
saying they did, and then this is very impressive, and they have obvious proof to us, and I just wanted to commend them for that.
I agree. We let them know when they applied that it was probably the most thorough application that we've received from an individual lot owner for a zoning map amendment in a long time. So kudos.
And that's reflected by your having only one condition.
Yeah, which is more of a technical one than anything else.
I'm
So
sorry,
it's,
I just couldn't resist.
I like it, Tom.
And I guess my only question then, under this zoning district, what'll happen, how big is their existing house? In other words, there are home size restrictions that are quite large in that district.
I don't know off the top of my head. Honestly, it doesn't matter because they would be legal non-conforming likely for the materials requirements regardless. But if they do ever expand the home, then it would apply to the expansion area for like the facade materials requirements and stuff. And
So
so,
it is legal non-conforming?
correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
good, okay, thank you.
They did not create the issue or anything, so it shouldn't prohibit them from doing really anything with the property in the future. And we informed the applicants of that before they applied. They've hired an attorney to draft the quitclaim deed and everything, so this should really, the board's vote on Monday will really be the last step in getting a more drawn-out process done for them than it probably they were expecting when they first asked me about it, but they're getting there, so.
Yeah, no, nice job. So having said that, I'll be happy to make a motion to approve. Is that okay?
No, I just had a comment. No, I just had a comment again for all the reason that trustee Washburn said, and everyone is commendable, how they took care of to ensure that all the neighbors are aware and there's no objection. And it's simple, but there is a typo again under ordinance 01-2024 on page 1. It says parcel, both the parcel number from RL1 to RL1 is RL1 to RE, correct?
Correct, yep, we'll make sure that's switched for
Before it goes to
the
the
board
village
meeting.
board. Other than that, pretty good.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead, Nancy.
All right, then I will make a motion to approve the zoning map amendment ZMA 23-13 at 2806 Green Hayes Avenue, subject to trustee Botch's comment and conditions.
I second that.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
Should that include the ordinance of 01-2024?
It's fine, yeah.
Okay.
The board makes the ordinance.
Well, with that,
Oh, is that what it says?
that's part
Oh,
of it.
sorry.
Yeah. That's okay.
Any public comment on this? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I like to make up my own.
Next is 1200 Northeast Frontage Road Site Plan Review, SP 2328.
Sure, and before I start, Nancy, can you move your mic a bit closer? I guess it's hard to pick up.
My voice is hard to pick up?
You gotta
Okay.
talk closer than you think into them.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Ryan Schmitz from Plunkett Rasich Architects applied on behalf of Educators Credit Union to construct a new approximately 42,000 square foot office building. The building will function as the new HQ for ECU and provide a detached ATM, site parking, related patio area, a basketball and pickleball court, site trails, and a stormwater pond. The application follows the land use element of the multi-jurisdictional comp plan, which recommends mixed business park commercial. Master Bicycle Plan 2030 does not recommend any improvements for the property. The Park and Open Space Plan for the village recommends protecting the environmental corridors contained within the subject property, for which this application does not really disturb them. As you can see on the map, it kind of fits in that tan area between the two green areas there. The application lies within the C3 district, which accommodates high-intensity commercial, moderate-intensity manufacturing, and upper-story residential uses. The village intends the C3 district to support these regional uses concentrated within large nodes or along regional commercial corridors. The applicant for lot and building regulations did not submit architectural elevations for the pergola, basketball, or pickleball court at the time of writing this. They've since submitted some of those things. We haven't gotten the chance to review them because it was just in the last couple days, but we're working through them, and we just need them on file functionally. I don't think they really matter one way or another because it's going to look like a basketball court. So, an ATM is an ATM. But we'll keep those on file. The C3 district, as a major point, does not allow accessory buildings in the front yard. So one of the conditions you have in there is that they will need to apply for a zoning variance for an accessory structure in the front yard, which they have indicated that they plan to do and will likely come in the next month. In terms of architectural standards, the village prohibits spandrel glass products from exterior facades. The applicant did not submit architectural elevations, as I said, for the trash enclosure or ATM. The applicant did not provide a pitch for the roof, nor a height for the roof enclosure. After speaking with the architect after we put this comment on the site plan, I believe they also intend to apply for a zoning variance for the height, the slope of the kind of half-story roof extension. And the architect's here if you have any questions about that roof. I think in general, we just adopted the architectural standards a few months ago, so this building was actually largely designed on the private side before they submitted to us publicly when we adopted these standards. So it's kind of one of those things where the building was largely designed before they even knew that the standards were going to become law. So it's understandable from a timing standpoint. Also, many of those standards were adopted due to the greater prevalence for industrial buildings in the village, as well as smaller scale office. The roof pitch limitations are meant to convey like a more traditional sense of architecture or symmetry in many of those buildings. It's pretty rare that we get a 3-story HQ office building in the village. There's probably a dozen companies in Racine County that would build something like this. So from that standpoint, we understand that a variance might be something they want to do. We just don't receive a lot of custom architecture from this standpoint. So due to that, both timing and kind of the uniqueness of it, we would expect a variance in front of the ZBOA to be pretty well received. Moving on, the property does not lie within 350 feet of either municipal water or sewer. The village board on Monday of last week approved a development agreement with educators to provide water to the subject property, which will essentially head west from County Trunk Highway V along Spring Street and then south along the southeast frontage road to provide water, and it'll loop back into 20. So it'll provide water to this property as well as some adjacent properties for future development. And that development agreement was approved by both educators and the village. The sewer for the property will likely still be on a holding tank right now. The property did not, the perk test didn't pass. Due to the adjacent environmental corridors, it's not really that surprising. The water table is pretty high out there in this specific area, so there'll likely be private holding tank still is what we're thinking in conversation with the Public Works Department and the sewer utility. In terms of sidewalks and pedestrian circulation, the application requires sidewalks along all sides of every lot that abuts the public street. DOT will allow a sidewalk in that right-of-way. However, this property may qualify for the in lieu of fee that we passed a while ago, and it's up to the applicant to either provide the sidewalk or pay the in lieu of fee. The applicant did not provide any short or long-term bicycle parking spaces, so they'll need to provide 3 short-term and 2 long-term bike parking spaces. They'll also need to connect the internal pedestrian circulation system to the sidewalk required. And that connection must follow a direct route and not involve significant out-of-direction travel for system users. In terms of parking area layout and design, the parking stall lengths of 18 feet are 1 foot longer than required by ordinance, and the parking area aisle widths are 2 feet wider than required by ordinance. The staff acknowledged that some of these increased widths may be for emergency vehicle turning radii. However, the applicant could choose to reduce some pavement widths, particularly in like the middle of drive aisles and stuff where you're not making a turn if they so choose. The ATM does not include a bypass lane of 10 feet, and the applicant did not submit an exhibit showing the required stacking spaces. Additionally, the ordinance prohibits stacking lanes between the principal building and the front street, so that'll be part of that variance they'll need to get for the ATM. The applicant provided a traffic engineering analysis from R.I. Smith, which did not recommend a TIA, as the average daily traffic is below those required by ordinance. And per section 90-320.110A, the ITM machine does not qualify as a drive-through use, so they don't need a TIA for that. In terms of outdoor lighting, the village limits all outdoor lighting to no greater than 3,000 K. Correlated color temperature and requires that the building facade lighting be fully shielded, fully confined from projecting into the sky by eaves, roofs, or overhangs, and mounted as flush to the wall as possible. There were some exhibits that were a little hard to read for the lighting, and so we believe they comply. We just want them to update the exhibits, and I don't know if we've gotten those yet or not, but I know they're in process. Perfect. So we'll review them. We assume that's met. We just wanted to catch it. And then finally, for landscaping and screening, same thing with the trash enclosure. They did not submit a detail for the enclosure. However, the landscaping around it meets the requirements. Finally, we need a detail on the sport court fencing as well. From a fiscal impact analysis, you can see that the total estimated taxable value is likely somewhere in the range of $18.5 million, all said and done. That brings it to a estimated value per acre of about $865,000 an acre for net value per acre. And revenue to cost ratio about 3.5 to 1, or a private to public cost ratio about 14.25 to 1. One of the things that we wanted to highlight for this parcel is some of those numbers, and I think we talked about this a little bit in the subdivision and zoning that we talked about for this property last month. So those numbers look really worse than they actually are because the property contains a pretty significant amount of undevelopable environmental corridor. So, and a pretty long stretch of the southeast frontage road, which we use in our calculations, but we don't actually pay for because it's a DOT-controlled roadway. So the site, in actuality, performs a lot better than the numbers might suggest, but we wanted to give it to you and then just raw figures and then kind of discuss them here. We can recommend the conditions contained within the endnotes for approval. There are 11, and those are the architectural plans for all the structures, a variance for the ATM in the front yard, removing the spandrel glass, architectural elevations for the trash enclosure, variance for the roof pitch, the short and long-term bicycle parking spaces, sidewalks or multi-use pathways unless they pay the in lieu of fee, sidewalk connections to the main building entrance if that sidewalk's constructed, stacking spaces in a bypass lane for the ATM, clarifying that all the lighting on the site plan meets the 3,000 K maximum CCT for outdoor lighting, and a fence permit for the proposed site fencing. So all of that said, it's 11 conditions. I'll let the applicant speak to of meeting some. As he said, he uploaded some of them yesterday, so we expect that, had we had a chance to review them in the last 24 hours, that we probably would have taken at least a few of these conditions off. But ultimately, other than the sidewalk and the pedestrian connection, if they install the sidewalk there, the remainder of it is the variances, which go to the Board of Appeals, and then some clarifications on it. The general building, architecture, site, everything will basically stay the same. So That's why we felt comfortable moving it towards the Plan Commission. Happy to answer any questions that you have for me before we bring up the architect or the applicant.
Questions for Sam?
When you say ITM, you mean ATM, correct?
Yeah, both in our write-up and the applicant's narrative, they're kind of referred to as both. In there, it's essentially an ATM, but it has some from my understanding, some upgraded video conferencing stuff in it too, so you can talk to an actual person as you go through, as opposed to just hitting some buttons. So it's like a fancy ATM.
When I was reading, I was scratching my head, saying, what is an ITM?
Or did Microsoft just change with corrections? You never know what you get sometimes.
Yeah,
But though I'm familiar with their ITMs, and they're very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to hear from the applicant? Mm-hmm. If you would like to come, your name and address, and
Good afternoon. Ryan Schmitz with Plunkett Research Architects, 209 South Water Street in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's our business address. Just FYI, the ITM, as you were alluding to, is an interactive teller machine, which means there's a live teller actually at the other end of it, located within the call center, which is a component of the headquarters that we're bringing along to this new building. I believe for the most part, we don't have any major issues with any of the items that Sam had noted. A few of them, I believe the roof pitch we are planning to apply for a variance for. I did apply for the variance for the ITM as noted last night, so that paperwork should be in the works. I believe we're planning to do the in lieu of fee for the sidewalk frontage and the access to it based on the DOT not recommending sidewalk being there or not requiring sidewalk being there at the current time. I'm happy to field any questions regarding the architecture or the plan development. Educators is excited and overjoyed to stay in Mount Pleasant as in the community. They love being a member of it, and yeah, let us know your thoughts.
beautiful building.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Chairman?
Chairman?
Yes.
Go ahead,
No,
Ron.
you go first.
No, you go first.
All right.
I always
your
go
hand, sir.
first. You go first.
Ron first.
Just a quick question at the, on the Washington Avenue, where you plan to move over there, you also have the parking lot is being used for the used car sales also. So at the new location in the parking lot, would that be also used for that, or?
I don't know, no, I don't believe we have planned for it. I believe the state of Wisconsin is regulation that we have to have the ability to bring a vehicle inside the lobby, which however unlikely that may be, we are designing around that, but we are not planning for used car sales on a parking lot. It's
Right,
just,
because
it's
the
just for
reason I'm
employees
asking
and
is
visitors.
because, so you have plenty of car park spaces, so I was just curious if that's the
Yeah,
plan.
no, there's no plan for vehicle sales on site that we would not,
And then
no
my number
operational plans for that.
My number two question is the plan which we have, it says proposed building and then the future expansion.
We put it on there so we would make sure to keep stuff out of the way of any potential opportunity. The building itself has the growth to the interior currently of about 10 to 20% of their current workforce, so they can grow into the building that we're proposing now from a 10 to 20 year standpoint. Beyond that, we wanted to give them the ability to develop the site further if they so choose to. So just keeping stuff out of the way of it.
No, other than that, I don't have any question. Looks very good plan.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you for staying in Mount Pleasant.
I thank you.
My only comment is that when we talked about this at zoning last month, this is the building I pictured. And when I saw this picture, I was so pleased. I think it is absolutely perfect for the site. I just love it. Also, I watched you build the library in Platteville for 2.5 years when my daughter was in school there, and we were in Platteville, and it was another very beautiful building that had wonderful architecture and style and met within that community as well. So I'm just really excited about this. I can't wait to see it. I hope we get invited to the open house or the grand opening. I just think it's beautiful. Can't wait to see it at night when the lights are on inside. And I just, yeah, I think this is really stunning and so that's all.
Commissioner, question I have about the pickleball and the recreational aspects of this. Is that meant to be for the public? Is that a sideline business here? Is it just meant for the staff?
It's currently just meant for staff amenity.
Okay. So as long as it's staff, then we don't, the use, doesn't create any complications as far as use then?
No, it's essentially part of the office use as an accessory use to that office use. If it were open to the public, or if they were planning on renting it out or something like that, then we would view it differently. But if it is just private use, it's up to them.
Okay. I guess maybe, Sam, this is more for you. As far as the sewer coming out, I realize it doesn't have the sewer now. Is there anything on anyone's table as to when sewer is going to be brought out that way?
Probably never, because there are only a couple properties in that, what we'll call a basin, and you would have to do a pretty significant amount of infrastructure to serve like 3 properties with sewer. So in my conversations with Tony, the Public Works Director, he said it's likely the village would run that sewer at like a negative for the village. Like the customers couldn't pay for the amount of infrastructure that would go in to actually serve them with sewer. So it is one of those rare circumstances in the sewer service area where like building a minor lift station and getting sewer there is a tough thing. If we figure out a way to make it happen, Public Works can certainly approve that and the village board can take a look at it at that time. But for right now, we don't think it really, for these types of uses, which are not high sewer uses, it probably doesn't make sense.
Okay, thanks. Thank you both.
Any other questions for staff or Ryan?
I guess the only question I have in regards to that is that something that should be a condition as well, that they get approval for this, or how does that work? Because is there going to be somebody outside of the village that has to approve a holding tank for this?
Yeah, the county will have to approve it at a holding tank committee, so you can approve it as a condition. I don't know if it's necessary or not. Frankly, for our local ordinances, they're not within 350 feet of a municipal sewer, so we don't require an extension per the zoning. So.
Because it's happening out in Burlington for Echo Foods. They just got shot down on their holding tank and they have to put in sewer. So that's what I'm saying. It goes beyond just the village.
I mean, ultimately, if the county denies it, then we'll have to look at secondary options, but I would.
Echo Foods uses a lot of water though.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
That's right.
I would.
Good point.
I don't. You can add it if you want. I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
It's up to you guys.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, looking for a motion?
Joe, you want to add the condition and move?
Yeah, I think I'll do that. Hang on for a second here.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 1200 Northeast Frontage Road Site Plan Review, SP-23-28, subject to the listed conditions for approval.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Glenn, good luck. Thank you for
Love it.
all
Love
the
it,
input.
love it.
Great building. Next will be 4800 90th Street Site Plan Review, SP 2329.
Sorry, just pulling it up.
Yep, no problem.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, on behalf of Microsoft, Dwayne Thomas from Dewberry applied to update the approved site plan for the first phase of the Microsoft Data Center development. The updates to the plan qualify for administrative review. However, the adopted redevelopment plan for TID 5 requires the village board approval of all building plans within areas 1, 2, and 3 of TID 5. The updates include minor facade and accessory building location changes. The south and east portions of the site have 20 feet of landscaping screening, and the Board of Appeals approved the 30-foot sound and screening wall zoning variance, which you see as a part of the application. This site is zoned C4, which is general industrial. The application follows the comp plan. The village does not have an adopted plan for local planning area 14. Parks and Open Space Plan for the village recommends protecting the isolated natural resource area in the center of the property, which the applicant chose to do as part of the certified survey map 23-6 with a deed restriction. Master Bike Plan does not recommend any improvements for the property. However, the village plans to install a multi-use pathway along the west side of 90th Street reconstruction to connect to the existing TID 5 multi-use pathway network. This application basically follows all the remaining requirements that we worked out as part of the previous site plan application. The village board approved a development agreement amendment with the property owner most recently. The village will reimburse the developer for a municipal revenue obligation of 42% of the annual incremental property taxes paid on improvements, not to exceed $5 million per year for the duration of tax incremental district number 5. The developer estimated their total development cost at not less than $1 billion for this portion of TID 5. I think since the last time we saw a Microsoft site plan, the village board approved that development agreement where Microsoft went and purchased west of the tracks in Area 3A, as well as the majority of Area 2. So this will not be the last Microsoft site plan application you all see in the coming decades. But this one, minor cleanup. I decided to throw in some of I think last time what happened in the packet is some of the architecture plans missed the packet for some of you. They were included on the last application. We didn't have any issues with them, but I wanted to include them here just so you all could see, make sure that you saw them as part of the packet. But from a site and building standpoint, yeah, normally we would just staff approve these changes. They were minor enough. They're in front of you today. So happy to answer any questions for the time being.
Questions for Sam?
I think this is fascinating. Again, it's fascinating to see this evolve and understanding it as a very complex project that, you know, is I don't even know what my questions would be at this point, other than we're very excited about it and you're moving along well, and this weather's kind of shut everybody down for a little while, couple days, but very exciting.
I wouldn't be surprised that if this comes back for some additional final cleanup measures, or as the site design changes as it's under construction over the next 2 years, that well, there might be more of these kind of very minor things that normally wouldn't even make it to your desk, but might come before you due to those TID 5 rules. If you have any questions just in general regarding Microsoft, Hoda is here from Microsoft, and you can meet her. She is Morgan's replacement, who got a promotion and is taking some leave. So we have a new rep from Microsoft here on the building side. So if you have any questions for her, she'll stick around after the meeting. You can ask them to her.
I just have an observation that I understand these data centers require a lot of cooling capacity, and I just hope you appreciate the free cooling that will be available to you several months of the year here. Just open the doors,
Well,
it's free.
Thankfully, Hoda's Canadian, so she gets it.
I thought you might be one of those Seattle people who really don't have winter. Okay.
Yeah, I think if I may come, for a Canadian, you call this cooling? You have no idea what cooling is. I moved from Canada, so I know that. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make just a couple of comments. Sure. Number one, Sam, well, thank you for including those rendering plans. It gives us a great picture of what to expect, So thank you. And number two, my comment is, I'm so pleased that, Claude, thank you also. I'm so pleased that the redevelopment agreement for TID 5 require that for every minor or major the changes, it has to come back to the Planning Commission and Village Board, because it gives us an opportunity to get up to date on what's going on. So it's not any obstacle, but we like to know every 3-4 months saying, wow, the new building is coming, the new fence is coming, or whatever it is, So I'm pleased to hear that, I'm pleased that we have that. Otherwise, we would not know until, there's a ribbon cutting or something. So I'm very pleased with that. That's all I have, and thank you, Microsoft, again for choosing Mount Pleasant, and we are very excited to have you here. And with that, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to make a motion.
I have one more comment. though.
Yeah.
I really like the renderings, but are those actually factual, what we'll be able to see from the road with the 30-foot walls?
You won't see it from the road.
Yeah, I would say, as in the case of all renderings, take it with a grain of salt. Getting context on those is really hard. And you see some architects try to put the little fake people in there and stuff, but until you see it in person, it's always an approximation. So I would say it'll look generally like that, but size and scale is a tough thing to represent on this small of a sheet. So.
It's always better than when they put a lush rainforest in front of it,
Well,
Just-
the reason I'm saying is because obviously you're not going to be able to see a vast majority of these buildings, but I don't remember what the heights were. So-
Yeah, you'll be able to see many of the buildings behind the walls. Perhaps not the easternmost building. That roof height is below 30 feet, but the ones behind that will be a bit taller, so you'll be able to see a fair amount of the site. As well as kind of on the most northeast side as you're coming south down 90th Street, you'll be able to see into the site, particularly in the short term before the significant amount of landscaping tends to grow in. It'll be hardest to view on the south side from KR, particularly after you come down the train overpass. When you're on top of the train overpass, you'll be able to see everything. But once you're down from that, there's a pretty significant area denoted on the landscape plans for reforestation. So in the long run, that 90th Street KR corner will be pretty well vegetated. So it'll be a mixed bag across the site. It's like 200 acres, so you'll get a wide variety of vistas.
Okay, thank you.
I think, again, we're looking forward to that ribbon cutting and open house to be able to walk through, right? And get that first look.
Any other questions? Would you like to hear from the applicant?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval of the 4800 90th Street site plan review SP-23-29 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Any public comment? Yeah, then I will call a great question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you and welcome. Again. All right, next on the list would be another motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?